Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the Golden Opportunities Coaching YouTube channel. Welcome to those of you who are new. Welcome to those of you seasoned veterans of what we do around here. What we do around here is bring about a variety of discussion topics on a variety of social, psychological, and emotional topics. And we kind of look at things as often as we can. It's been a few days, had a very busy week, and also had some health related setbacks too. So wasn't able to get here for about 4 or 5 days, but back now, hopefully taking us over the 750 audio series in June. 1,000 by Labor Day is my goal. We'll see where we get to, but anyway, today we're going to look at negative relationship patterns that will stop you from experiencing what you want out of your romantic relationships. This also can apply, many of these can apply to friendships too. There's 5 things that I want to look at here. If you are looking to improve the quality of your relationships, both romantic and platonic, would love to be of service to you in that way. A couple ways you can reach out: at PO Perception on Twitter or in the About Me section of this YouTube page. Either way, we'll get you in touch with a member of the team and ultimately lead you in a good direction. So, the first is, if you judge a person's usefulness in your life by how many boxes they tick off. And I know there's a lot of people who have preferences of qualities they'd like to have in a partner or even in a friend, whether it be they're a certain height, a certain weight, they make a certain amount of money every year, they're in a certain industry, they are debt-free, they are this or that. And I think it's very good to have non-negotiable things, such as maybe if you struggle with addiction, you don't want another addict in your life. Or if you are a person who is big into monogamy, you don't want someone who's polyamorous in your life. But at the same time, the more boxes you put on someone, the harder it is to find a partner who reaches all those boxes. So I encourage people to have 5 or less non-negotiable boxes and then be somewhat flexible. Difference between preferences and non-negotiables is, are they things you can live with versus not live with? And that's super important as you go forward. The next is being selfish as a partner or accepting selfish behavior. Sometimes people accept selfish behavior because they think as a person becomes more attached to them, they will change. This misnomer causes so much trouble in relationships. Sometimes I'd like to scream. The reality is a person changes because they believe in the change. You can be the inspiration for someone to change, but you will not be the reason. And so, the challenge becomes understanding that if you are a selfish person, eventually it will come back to bite you in the butt. And if you are dealing with a selfish person, they will not change just because you want them to, will them to, or desire them to. The change has to be internal first and external second. The next is dependency. So, relationship dependency comes in 3 forms. Overly independent people are people who are hard to get to know because they won't open up and they won't allow a person to become an equal part of their life. Interdependency is a healthy form of relationship where I depend on you for certain things because you add to my life, but I know that if you left tomorrow, decided you didn't want the relationship tomorrow, and or you were struck with an illness or unable to perform your relational duties, that I would be okay. And then complete relationship dependency is believing that you can't live without a person. There's a difference between can't and don't want to. And so if you can get to a place where you'd rather not live without a person because they add to your life so much that it's mutually beneficial and everyone is benefiting and still are allowed to keep and encouraged to keep their own self-identity, that is healthy. However, it is unhealthy to become so dependent on a person that they become your self-identity. And this happens a lot, and it's a relationship pattern that the overgiver and the use of relationship to fill self-voids is one of the most dangerous things because it leads to several, if not a string of, lasting for years or decades, unfulfilling relationships because the pressure on the identity of the relationship is too much for an actual bond to formulate that is sustainable. And this happens in 60 to 80% of toxic relationships, and it is a warning sign if a person is overly dependent upon the relationship to alter their mood consistently and or their level of personal happiness. The next thing is if one or both parties is doing the compare and contrast with their ex and or constantly in contact with an ex. Obviously, if there are children, then contacting an ex is necessary. Although in many cases, and this is a controversial, at least for some, topic, but at the same time, many exes cannot co-parent, and therefore intermediaries appointed by the court or third party, even something like a civic organization or a church, to deal with child-related issues as a proxy is far better than having to deal with a person with whom emotions may still be present and yet unresolved. So, if one or both parties are still in the compare contrast issue with the ex and or they have a toxic relationship with an ex, children or not, it's a sign that relationship patterns will be difficult. There is a portion of society, somewhere between 10 or 15%, that go through relationship related traumas and never completely recover. Accepting that you may have found a person who is in that state is also important if you actually want to end up happy versus right. In other words, you may have compatibility with a person, but they are unwilling or incapable or combination of both into moving into a more committed relationship with you or in some cases any other person. Then the last thing is they ignore the red flags thinking that a person will change because the relationship status will change them. This is highly unlikely. Statistically, it's an anomaly and it's unhealthy because it means that your actions as it relates to the other person are supposed to be able to create change, and when they don't, you'll feel worse about yourself and in turn become almost toxic by nature, and that becomes problematic. So hopefully this is helpful. I encourage you to reach out if there's more help that you need. Until next time, keep your feet on the ground, your mind in the moment.